you really have to learn how to take care of yourself. And I wish that CrossFit emphasized more of that to the start. And there's discussion about it, and there's just a million things for them to do. So they haven't got that yet.
Is it true that if you own a CrossFit or if you're an affiliate that you have to get a special kind of liability insurance?
That I don't know.
Oh.
I know you have to be, as an owner, you have to be at least L1.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, I think as a gym owner you do.
Yeah.
Or
there was like a rumor
Yeah.
that I heard from like more anti-CrossFit people that like a regular insurance agency would not insure a CrossFit gym because of the injury. So again, it was probably a little bit of truth and then a bunch of like negative ideas about CrossFit.
By the way, a lot of that is just rubbish. I mean, they're really good stats. I mean, one thing about CrossFit, Greg Glassman mounted a big, expensive lawsuit and won about CrossFit statistics and all that. And people don't get hurt any more in CrossFit than in other sports. I mean, I was a runner for a while. And if you go to a running store, half of the store is stuff for running injuries, you know, stuff for your ankles and knees and all that stuff. I mean, with sports, you get injured. And with CrossFit, the injury rate isn't any higher than any other sport.
Any theory as to why that rumor started? Who was so anti-CrossFit that they wanted to scare people away from it?
Well, Annette may want to look up the lawsuit, but there was that organization. It's a bunch of letters that is about, you know, coaching and strength training. But CrossFit won the lawsuit, and they had released reports saying that CrossFit injuries were more common and all that, but it was all false data, and they lost, I think, millions of dollars because of doing it. But there's another thing. I would say there's a camaraderie in CrossFit that sometimes turns into arrogance, and that's just human nature. And then other people react to it and they want to tear it down. So if you look on YouTube for what's wrong with CrossFit,
so many.
Yeah. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, and I know Eric feels this way too, that's all part of the conversation, you know, like let them have their opinions and they may have some suggestions that could really help CrossFit.
And some of those parodies are really funny because there's nothing better than like some bro stuff that they just take to the extreme and it just is silly.
Absolutely. Or there was this one parody where, you know, a lot of the serious CrossFit athletes have a bag that they carry around all the time. And there was one parody that opened up the bag and it was all this crazy stuff. And I thought, okay, that was creative. You know?
So my findings. In 2018, there was an article in the Orthopedic Journal of Sports Medicine, a 4-year analysis of the incidence of injuries among CrossFit trained participants. And it was a total of over 3,000 participants over 4 years. And the conclusion was that CrossFit training is relatively safe compared with more traditional training modalities. It does seem though, however, they had like one thing is that within their first year of training, as well as those who engage in the training modality less than 3 days per week and or participate in less than 3 workouts per week are at a greater risk for injuries.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you just do it like a couple times a week.
If you're putting your toe in.
And as you begin, it's more dangerous.
Interesting.
But it's overall relatively safe compared to other things. And that makes total sense to me because, you know, something like running, it's like you're doing the same thing over and over again. You're definitely going to get some repetitive injuries, especially, you know, if you have any fault in the way that you do it.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, especially the part if you're going less than 3 times a week or doing less than 3 workouts a week, you're not getting exposure to multiple muscle groups. You know, maybe you just show up for deadlift day.
Yeah, right. Although that's another one of the principles I should have mentioned, and that's recovery time. for the first couple of years, I went 5 days a week, and I thought I was being great, and I was always sore. And finally, my doctor said, "Hey, it's great you're working out so much, but try 3 times a week and do other things." So now I go to CrossFit 3 times, and then I ride my bike or, do Peloton or something another 2 days, but it's not as, it's not as stressful.
Yeah. Yeah. I was curious about that, like compared to, working out when you're say 50 as compared to 65, like how much more recovery time do you think I need to expect to need?
Well, a good rule of thumb is after a really good CrossFit workout, take another day where you don't have a CrossFit workout.
Okay. Yeah.
But the funny thing that my doctor said is, he said, great guy, he said, "Hey, why don't you just watch how your body feels best instead of making a rule?" And I did realize, I was working out 5 days a week for 2 years, and I was sore all the time. And I thought that was just the price you pay.
Right.
And by the way, my then girlfriend was a games athlete, and she was super sore all the time, and like taking meds and all this stuff because she was so sore.
Oh.
And now in retrospect, that can't be good,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, that's why you kept getting sore. You were like, well, this is just how you live, right? Like,
I know. And I was gonna ask.
Yeah, that was one thing we had in common.
I was just gonna ask if you were trying to keep up with her too.
Oh, it was impossible. It was intimidating.
I can.
But it was
bet.
fun. That's how I got in shape. I was shamed into it.
Sometimes that does work.
Yeah, totally. Oh, yeah. I just found it was the National Strength and Conditioning Association, and that the judge found that the NSA actions constituted extensive perjury. So,
Wow.
yeah. And CrossFit just spent a ton of money. This was, Greg Glassman probably would have been considered a bad business decision to go after it that hard, but I think it was the right thing for him to do. But it was part of his unique personality that like a corporate guy never would have done, but he won.
Yeah. When was that lawsuit?
It dated back to 2014 when CrossFit sued the NSCA. In 2016, the court found that NSCA fabricated the injury data, and then over the next 5 years, different things happened, and it was finally settled last year.
Wow.
But in 19, the judge forced NSCA to pay $4 million of CrossFit's legal fees, which, that's a huge victory.
Good. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because the perjury was not just the original thing. Perjury is lying under oath, right? Submitting that data in court. Wow.
Yeah.